Are you a 3PL spending more time and money than you'd like recruiting and onboarding logistics roles? Then it's time to check out Rapido Solutions Group, the leaders in nearshore logistics staffing. Located right next door in Mexico, they have access to the freight talent you need. From carrier sales to tracking and tracing and everything in between, they can do the heavy lifting for you. So if you're ready to get your time back and want to move fast, check out Rapido Solutions Group. Visit gorapido.com to get started today. Have you heard about Bitfreighter and the EDI revolution? Bitfreighter helps companies automate communication with their freight partners through unlimited messaging and quoting. Traditional providers can't say that. The Bitfreighter team is also available 24/7 and responds immediately by phone, email, or yes, even text. Legacy providers can't say that either. So if you want to scale your operations to save time and money, come join the EDI revolution with us. Visit bitfreighter.com to get started today. Hello, and welcome to the Bootstrapper's Guide to Logistics, the podcast highlighting founders doing it the way that doesn't get a lot of attention. We're here to change that by sharing their stories and inspiring others to take the leap.
It's a roller coaster ride. You might ultimately fail.
That's when I kind of knew I was onto something.
It was very hard.
It truly is building a legacy.
The more life you live, the more wisdom you have.
Because we are where we're supposed to be, kind of answering the call.
Don't shoulder entrepreneurship on your own.
I'm your host, Nate Schutz. Let's build something together from the ground up. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bootstrapper's Guide to Logistics. We're going to go deep on another founder story this week with Wasim Munayyer, who's the founder of Munayyer Group, a specialty recruiting firm in the supply chain space. Wasim has had one of the journeys that a lot of founders go through of having a successful career and then at some point, reaching that decision of, I want to do something different. And so today we're going to unpack why and what that early period was like. Of course, we're going to talk about the challenges of bootstrapping, and we're going to talk about a bunch of our friends and cool people in the supply chain world. And we're going to see where it goes. We're trying to take an approach that honors the humanity of every founder that's out there and trying to bring good news out into the industry. We don't have a plan, folks. We don't know where this is going to go. So thanks for being here. And Wasim, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, sir. I'm doing great. Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
Well, since I've gotten to know you over the last, I don't know, we're probably coming up on a year at this point. We got introduced through our mutual friend, Trey Griggs, world-class human being and friend of both of ours. And he said to me early last year, you got to meet Wasim. And I always like connecting with other connectors of people, and you work in the recruiting space. So maybe let's just start with what you do first, sure, and then we can go back to the beginning of the story and figure out why you decided to do it.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a recruiter. Just like you said, I'm a people connector. I'm a matchmaker. Old school term, headhunter. So we connect talent in the industry with our clients, with companies that need to hire them. That's the most simple way that I could explain what we do. So our clients are looking for a very specific skill set, very specific talent, not somebody that they would typically be able to find on their own just by posting a job. And then they cut me loose and we go find those folks for them and vet them out and bring them to the table and make introductions and hold everybody's hand to the finish line.
What do you focus on to it's a big industry. What do you focus on to make it, more of a niche offering?
Sure. Yeah. So probably about 20-30% of our customers are actually touching freight. You pick any mode of transportation you want. So it could be big four railroad, could be freight forwarder, could be truck brokerage, could be an asset-based carrier, steamship line, contract logistics, warehousing, whatever. And it's about 70-80% of our customers are building technology and automation for that space. And so that's a pretty big umbrella. So it could be a TMS, could be WMS, could be autonomous trucking, could be robotics in warehouses, anyone building tech and automation for those players, for the logistics service providers, could be a customer of ours. And so within that space, we will hire cross-functionally for them. So we could be hiring a software engineer one day, or the head of product, head of customer success, partnerships, sales, commercial, CTO, CEO, typically director level and above is where we're going to add the most value. Not that working on roles, lower level roles is beneath me. They just don't need my help as much with that.
Sure.
So very highly targeted. And the common denominator across the board is why we're in business, why we offer a lot of value is it's a shallow talent pool when you're talking about people who understand the nuts and bolts of logistics, but are also very tech forward in how they approach the industry. And so that's the people that our clients want us to find will speak both languages. If that makes sense.
I just last night got a text from a friend of mine who said, can you help me? I'm trying to hire somebody on the sales side, director level, who has, deep logistics experience, understands retail, has done operations before, and has sold tech.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you're looking for a unicorn?
There's 150 people in the country that check all those boxes.
I know.
So it takes a lot of time to go find that person. And so that's where we add the value, because the C-level people that are our clients, that are the hiring managers, like, what is their time worth? They don't want to spend hours and hours and hours going through irrelevant candidates and then interviewing them and have their people interview them, and then they get to the 11th hour and it falls apart, right? So they'd rather pay me to say, hey, these are the two best people in the world at this job. Meet them and figure out who you want to have beers with.
Well, in that case, I'm going to have to make an introduction, because I think I just got a lead. I think I just got a lead for you.
Cool. We'll figure out a way to repay you for it.
Well, let's go back to the beginnings of Munayyer Group. You spent time working, on the ocean freight side, at the port and terminal side. Had a successful career. I know you're married to your wife Whitney. What was it like the day that I'm imagining this? So if I'm way wrong, just tell me. But I imagine there was a day or a period of time where you started saying, "Hey, I think I might want to go do something." I imagine your wife maybe saying, "Why would you do that? You've got a successful career. Like, let's just keep paying the bills and let's not take the risk." Am I right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think she knew what she was getting into when she married me, because I made it very clear in the most humble way. Not that it's beneath me to work for other people, but I was always going to start my own business at some point. What it was going to be and when it was going to be, and I wasn't sure, but I definitely knew that I was always going to start my own shop. And I think she knew that, and she knew that that at heart, even if I was working for somebody, that I was going to be a hustler and we were going to be okay. But the story behind it will make a lot of brides nervous. So I got a call one day when I was working for Ports America. I was running talent acquisition for Ports America nationwide, and they called me. My boss called me and was basically like, "Hey, if you want to keep your job, you got to move out to our headquarters, which is in Chandler, Arizona, outside of Phoenix." And I just bought a condo at the beach in Jacksonville Beach, where we moved from Jersey. And I was getting married like 2 months later in New Jersey. And so I was like, I didn't even talk to Whitney. I was like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, that's never going to happen for those reasons. And I don't want to move to Chandler. Certainly not for this job. So at the time, we only had one car, and Whitney was still working at Jacksonville University. I picked her up from work, and in the car, I was like, "Hey, I quit my job. I'm starting a business."
Surprise!
Surprise! So there was so this is a woman that's planning a wedding that's happening 2 months from now, and literally we had no money. So I just put most of my nest egg, if you want to call it that, on a down payment on our first place. So we had no money, and we're getting married 2 months later. And so you can imagine that was very nerve-wracking for her. It was I'm a psychopath. So I'll take a risk, I'll jump, and I'll figure it out, so for me, it's pretty a comfortable space to live in. But she likes stability and structure and feeling secure, like most people,
Sure.
which is great. And so that probably made her a little bit nervous. And she was basically like, "Cool, I support you. You have 6 months to make money." And I'm like, "Awesome, let's go." And so I think I filed for the business February 17th, 2017. So it's been 7 years almost to the day. And I just went balls to the wall, dude. Just
Congratulations. I mean, 7 years is that's a big milestone in and of itself. How did you find your very first customer? Did you already have it lined up before you quit your job?
Uh, I didn't have it lined up. So my very first customer was Panalpina, which is a freight forwarder that got bought out by DSV. Um, and so what I did was I literally made a list. I mean, 3 lists. I mean, A, B, and C list. And the A list were people that I knew would stick their neck out for me. And the B list were people that like I had warm relationships with, but like maybe we're not close enough for me to ask for a favor. And C was the really long list of like everyone that I know that like I'm kind of friendly with, and called all of those people. And so the A list was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm starting my shop. This is what I'm going to offer. Like, can you open a door? You know, is there anything I can do to help you? And so one of the people on the A list was someone that I recruited when I was working at Houston Logistics, running their talent acquisition. He had moved over to Panalpina, and he's like, you know what? I love you. I know you do great work. Like, I had a great experience working with you at Houston, and I'm going to introduce you to the HR director at Panalpina. And she was like, I don't know if she was just like frustrated with their recruiting process at the time or what. Like, it was just good timing, right? So she was like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. It's like a contingency search anyway, right? So in what we do, like, we don't get paid unless we're successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, she's like, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. Best case scenario, he finds us the best candidate and we cut him a check. And so that was it. And so I made many of those phone calls, enough of which said, yeah, we'll give you a chance. And that's how we got started, you know.
This A-list concept, I'm digging on it for a couple of reasons. It's not as risky as it might sound if you've got a pretty deep A-list.
Yes.
And that doesn't happen overnight. Building
right.
a list like that takes years.
Yes.
You have to follow through on your commitments, whether it's for customers, suppliers, coworkers, peers, whatever it might be. That credibility and trust factor takes a long time to develop.
Yeah.
But then you have a pretty broad A list. One of the areas that I've seen first-time founders struggle with is they have an early idea and they have an A list that also, you know, values the potential solution to that problem. And they run a pilot, for example, and it works. But then they don't have a B list. And so they've exhausted their network of, I mean, they might land, you know, 5 or even 10 customers out of their A list, but they didn't have to do cold outbound or significant
Right.
marketing to get it. And then once it goes into the B list and the C list, they can struggle because they don't have distribution. They don't have a wide reach. There's no brand awareness at that point. How did you, or did you just have that deep of a list already that you
Yeah.
didn't have that dilemma?
So I'm in the unique position, I think, in comparison to other founders that are starting a brokerage or starting a SaaS company or whatever, that I was in the business of meeting people, right? So like,
Sure.
even as an employee, even as running talent acquisition for Houston Logistics for 2 years or for Ports America for 2 years, I was in the business of meeting people. I was in the business of building relationships. Now, I think where I helped myself outside of just the job description is I actually cared about getting to know people and cared, and just in my nature, like I love meeting people and love building relationships and like helping out where I can. I've always been that way. And people remember that. Like, people always remember when you helped out when nobody asked you to, you know, whether they're a candidate that you hired or whether they're a hiring manager that was in a pinch and like struggling to find somebody. And you know, that means something to a lot of people. So one thing that I'm really good at, and I think this helped me, is continuing to invest in those relationships even after a search was done. You know, like that candidate got hired, the hiring manager's happy, moved on to the next thing, but constantly reaching out. How are you guys doing? What else can I do for you? How's the relationship? Are you still excited about this job? And like, you know, continuing to build relationships even when you don't have to. And so when it was time to like finally ask for like someone to open a door for me, it was easy because I've spent years and years handing out favors and helping people out and opening doors and building relationships. So it's like, yeah, of course, like, you're going to do this. First of all, you're going to be great at it. And of course, we're going to help you out.
Who did you have in your life, either at a young age or, you know, early in your career, that helped shape that mindset? Or it's not even a mindset, really. It's more of almost like a posture of your heart. If you're a generous person, it's more of like your vibe. It's not a thinking thing. But who did
That's
you
right.
have around you?
So definitely my father, for sure. So my dad is an immigrant that came from the Middle East in the 70s and had a 40-year sales career. Like he's like the epitome of the American dream, right? Like came here in debt, not speaking English, went to school, somehow passed classes without speaking English. Had a 40-year sales career. And so one of the most fortunate things that I've ever experienced is being able to observe immigrant work ethic, right? And so to watch somebody start from below zero and have success is like, you want to emulate that. And like, now that's your hero. Like now I have to do that good. Like, think about what this guy went through to give me a shot. How am I not going to maximize this? And so his thing was always like, he would always say it's better to be in a position to give than to be in a position to need something, right? And so like, do whatever you need to do to be in that position that you can help your friends and you can help family. Like, you're the guy that people know that they can go to when they need something, when they need help. And so like, position yourself to be always able to give instead of able to receive and need something. And so I heard that growing up all the time, and I watched it actually happen, So that definitely shaped just the way I look at life in general, and the way, like, I always knew, like, I need to make money. I want to make money. I want to never have to look at prices when I go somewhere, but I want to be able to get to that point by helping people out, because that's what I watched my dad do. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's a different approach to sales altogether. Sales gets a bad rap, deservedly. We don't like being sold to. We don't like being just a transaction for the other person. And yet the most effective salespeople, the absolute top of the top, they're not selling at all.
That's right. It seems like such an obvious thing, man, but a lot of people don't get it. And it's very, most people in sales are very transactional in how they go about their business. And they're also, and I get it, because people have to pay their bills. Like, you're always thinking about, like, I need to get a check. I need to get paid. I need to close this deal. And that's why I think doing what I do, or starting any business, it's such a milestone when you get to the point where your bills are paid.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to think about that anymore. You know what I mean? You're like, it's no longer about the money. It's more about just investing in the process and investing in the people that you're building relationships with, and like giving, like keep putting, like, give as much as you can, put as much out there as possible. And it naturally comes back to you, like with that little effort. You know what I mean?
And
Which
it comes
seems
back
like an
in ways
obvious
that you
thing.
don't expect.
That's right.
It's not linear. It is not a straight line. It might come in wildly unpredictable ways, but
that's right.
That investment always has a return.
But it's a long game that most people aren't willing to play. You know what I mean? And so you have to, that's why, like, just getting started in the beginning was really, really hard, and I had my back against the wall. But once I got it going, dude, I just knew, like, just keep giving and it'll come back. And so I've just done that, and you, like, continue, like that C list. I'm still working on it. Like, I've been planting seeds in the C list for 7 years, and they became B people and became A people, and that now they're like constantly want to give back. They're like, what can we do to help you? Like, I don't, like, appreciate it, but like, they're like, dude, you've been helping us forever. Like, you've been doing things for us forever. Like, what can we do to help you? And now you're not asking anymore.
It's very satisfying to walk through life that way too, where
it's awesome.
It's frictionless. Yeah. Everybody's a friend.
Yeah. So I'm just very, very fortunate and lucky that that's in my DNA, that I enjoy doing that. Enjoy getting to know people and caring about people and figure out what's important to them, and then do whatever I can to help them out, whether it's going to turn into a transaction or not. I mean, there's a countless amount of people that one day I reached out to recruit them, and for one reason or another, it didn't work out. Either they weren't interested, or the client wasn't interested, or whatever. And they became like family friends. And like 2 years later, there was a transaction. Either they became a client, or I ended up placing them, or they introduced me to somebody that turned into a client, or like, but like, nobody wants to play that game, man. Nobody wants to, because people see it as work. So I think if you see the long-term game as, this is just how I enjoy life, because I want to surround myself with good people, and it's fun getting to know them and their families, then it could be really come really naturally, But I think if you look at it as work, it's just like, I'm gonna spend time getting to know this person. Like, I'm not gonna get anything out of it right away, and like, it's kind of a waste of my time. Because people think like very short term,
They do.
Yeah.
How about then the other people in the industry that you're attracted to in that same way, the people that are givers and relationship builders? Maybe they're entrepreneurs, maybe they're not. Who are the people that you find are that share that same perspective?
Like specific individuals
Yeah, like who's had an impact on you, and who do you?
within the industry. I mean, there's definitely mentors that I've been very fortunate to come across. That I, just like my father, like I watched, but in the industry, not home.
Yeah,
I watched them do it. Adrienne Bailey comes to mind. May or may not have ever met her. Adrienne is runs the transportation practice at Oliver Wyman, but she's been in, grew up at CSX and been in industry, probably top three scholars in the railroad in the industry ever. I was fortunate to recruit for her when we were both at Eastern Logistics, and she kind of took me under her wing and just became a really good family friend and a mentor and whatever. And I've watched her constantly um, just try and help people out all the time, and she's not in a transactional position. She's not an entrepreneur. She's been an employee for her entire career. So there's not going to be a return on her business. But when she does need something, there's never a lack of people that are there to help out, because she spent her whole career trying to open doors for people, even though it's not her business. So I've known her for a long time. Trey, our mutual friend, Trey, is another person that's just like constantly trying to help people, whether there's a benefit or a return or not. And so you naturally end up, we talked about Kyler earlier. Kyler Ford is another guy in the industry that is just constantly trying to open doors for people with like zero regard for what it's going to do for him.
yeah,
And so you it's like anything else, man. So like you end up, if you're the fifth person in a group that plays golf, you'll become a golfer. And if you're the fifth friend of a group of four people that smoke cigarettes, you'll end up smoking cigarettes. Like
Yeah.
Same thing, right? So if you like surround yourself with people that you want to emulate and you want more of that energy, it becomes a really, really good vibe, and it becomes an extremely powerful circle.
You don't know this, but I have a LinkedIn post scheduled to go out, I think next week, and talking about you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. What if it was 50 people instead of 5?
It's extremely powerful.
And those 50 people shared the same values, and in our case, the same industry. I mean, that's what binds us all together and makes this podcast work is we all love supply chain. But as that group expands to more and more people, I think the first thing that stands out to me, because I spend so much time with entrepreneurs, is you're not alone. There are other people that obviously are running companies and starting businesses, but that are doing it with a undercurrent of values that other people relate to. Then when those people start doing business together, lots of good things happen unexpectedly, and it has this multiplying effect, which is why, in part with Ballast, our founder group that you're a part of, it is fun to just watch seeds become sprouts and then grow into this really big harvest of a whole bunch of people who just want to see each other win.
Yep. It's awesome. And like that's the other piece is when right away when you meet somebody who's successful, and there are very successful people who all they care about is themselves winning. And there are very successful people who sure, like they're excited that they're doing well, but it's super important to them that now that I'm doing okay, I have to make sure everybody else around me is doing okay.
Yes.
And to your point, when you surround yourself with people like that, it's extremely, extremely powerful. And so I'll give you another example. There's 2 clients of mine that very recently, within the last month, both SaaS players, both freight tech players. Simultaneously, I was doing a partnership search for both of them. So, one company was looking for like a VP of partnerships, somebody who's going to own their entire partnerships program, and the other client was looking for somebody who was going to be the number 2 partnerships person. They kind of already had something established, so it was more like a director level, manager level. And we literally had multiple candidates, some of which that were interviewing for both jobs. And we were very transparent with the candidates and very transparent with both clients. The clients knew each other. Like there's partnerships opportunities there. There's synergies there. And literally had like hiring managers from different companies talking to each other saying like, you know what, I really, really like this person, but I think they're better for you.
Wow.
And vice versa, right? Like, let's collaborate to make sure the best people end up in the best role with the best companies.
Wow.
And so that's like a very like I'm very, one of the things that I'm very proud of is that I've created an environment of people and a group of people that care that much about seeing each other win, and the outcome of where these people in our circle end up. Like, whether they work for us or they work for you or they work for neither of us, they're good people. They came through with Steam. We want to make sure they end up somewhere great in the industry because we're all working in the same circle, you know? And that's a very unique thing, man. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, it doesn't happen in most industries. It doesn't happen a lot in our industry. But when you're constantly investing and bringing good people together, whether you're going to benefit from it or not, you end up with things like that. And I
Yeah.
observed that, and I kind of like stepped away from it and like looked at myself in that situation. I'm like, that didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of handshakes and a lot of time spent together and a lot of traveling, and a lot of and golf and beers together and hanging out and like things that happened that created this level of trust and warmth that we're going to win, but we want to make sure that everybody else in this circle is also winning.
Do
You know?
you have a list of values that you try to run the business by, or is it? I have a love-hate relationship with the whole mission, vision, values thing.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I think it's trash, and on the other hand, I see immense value in it when it's done authentic, like genuinely, authentically. Not here's a poster on the wall that says how we all
Right.
do things.
So the short answer is no. And Trey will listen to this and be like, I told you that we should do this a long time ago. And so so the short answer is no. Are there values that I live by in business? Like, yeah. Have I ever wrote them down? No, but I probably
Yeah.
should.
Well,
And Trey,
let's riff on it.
yeah.
What would some of them be? What comes to mind?
um,
I mean,
stuff that we're
let's do it the
talking about.
opposite way. Let
Yeah.
me propose them to you based on our conversation so far and
That would
how
be
I
great
know
because
you.
I'm not good at articulating it, to be honest. Like, I can talk about it in a conversation, but like, if I was to like put your values in one sentence, which is why Trey is incredible at what he does, because he can
Sure.
pitch what I do in 4 seconds way better than I can, even though I talk about it all day, every day. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about it right now, and you can understand and gather what my values are, but I've never like wrote it down in a concise way.
Well, the first one that comes to my mind is an abundance mindset.
Sure.
That it isn't a zero-sum game. If you can get competitors to help each other, people that are competing for the same talent, that signals to me that you don't see everything as scarce. You see it as almost like a renewable resource. You can continue to grow it. So abundance mindset would be the first one. You've mentioned family a couple of times already today, but also in some of our other conversations. So I know that about you, and like having an appreciation for your roots. I don't know what the value for that would be, but maybe it's even just like respect for those who came before you.
And just perspective, man.
Yeah, perspective. The other is a word we don't use a lot. It's contentedness. You shared with me late last year that, when is enough enough? You don't have to you might have a $5 million company. That doesn't mean you have to build a $50 million company.
Sure.
And you strike me as someone who is content with what they have, whether that is a lot or a little. And so you can be happy in any situation. And
Yep.
I wouldn't use the word happy to describe you, though. I would say content, which is different.
Yep. I think that also comes from just having perspective, man. Like, I've traveled enough in the world and have family in parts of the Middle East where, like, I know that they had days where they wondered where their next meal was coming from.
Sure.
And if they were going to be safe and if they were going to sleep in a warm bed. Like, so like, I think it's obviously not something you wish for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The silver lining of being exposed to that kind of thing is you understand that, not to take away from anybody's anxiety or my anxiety or that anybody experiences, but like, our anxiety is first world anxiety. Right. And so like, like, I get anxious when I'm trying to find parking at a stadium. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like I'm like my worries have never been like really deep, scared, concerned worries. And so having that perspective and knowing that no matter what, there's so much more to be grateful for than there is to worry about. Like by far, like the list of things to be grateful for, even on my worst day,
Yeah.
is so much longer than the things that we have to worry about. When you think about things that way, and you have that perspective, you're going to be content whether you make $1 million a year, 100,000 a year, or 5 million a year. And when you're in that content space and you have that peace of mind, you're always going to have better work and because you're clear, right? Like
Yeah. You're not desperate.
that's right. You're not desperate. Like, you know, it's going to be okay. And then you end up making more money anyway, because you're in that positive, grateful position. You know what I mean? And
Well, we
it's also
started this
attractive to other
conversation.
people.
We started this conversation an hour ago with me sharing with you before we started recording. Hey, I'm having a tough morning. I didn't sleep well last night. I'm having some anxiety and I'm just not in a great place. And you said, what if it all works out? I was like, what do you mean? What if it all works out? I'm telling you, I'm in a tough spot here. Yeah, but you've got a pretty good track record of waking up the next day and everything being okay still. And that simple recalibration already has changed the course of my day. I'm in a better place than I was an hour ago.
Yeah,
And
it's awesome.
with that simple reframing, and so you showing up with those values offers value to other people. And so it's no surprise to me that you're having success in a people-based industry, offering a people-based service, because you're not looking at people like products.
That's right. Commodities. Yeah.
Yeah.
I made a post about that recently on LinkedIn, but like how much it like pisses me off that so much of the like, particularly like the bigger companies get, how commoditized their recruitment process becomes, right? And you start
The
treating
cattle
people,
call.
yeah, it's awful. And it's just a bad look it's a bad experience for the talent, for the candidates. It's a bad experience for the company, because then the people you end up recruiting came through this process where they felt like they were a number, and it's just like a way to start a relationship with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing with like I haven't been single since dating apps were a thing. But I have friends who are single, and I'm just like, dude, you can go on dates like whatever you want with anybody you want, because you just go like this, and there's more and more and more and more of them, and like kind of like devalues, the whole system, right? It's like, well, that one didn't work out. I can just go back on this app and find like 100 more,
Yeah.
and so like takes the warmth out of the process. But again, like that, it's something that I feel like I bring to the table that I didn't intend to. Is warmth to that process, like whether it works out or not. I mean, I can't tell you how many like thank you notes I've gotten from candidates that didn't get hired just because they had a good experience. Just like someone cared to call them and give them feedback and offer them coaching on the next thing, whether it's with my client or not, which is so rare. What it shouldn't be, because it doesn't cost anything to do that. You know what I mean?
Just time.
To like cost you a little bit of time to like be kind enough to call somebody and like offer them a little bit of advice. It shouldn't be a unique thing, but apparently it is. But people appreciate it so much,
Let's try to offer some encouragement to some people that are looking for jobs right now then, because it's been a tough last 6 months in the logistics space. There have been layoffs at tech companies, carriers, brokers, you name it. And a lot of people are looking for work. What are you seeing out there yourself right now? Are requisitions staying flat? Are they going up? What do candidates need to stand out?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll tell you the same thing that I tell everybody when they ask me this question. So the level of success that we had last year does not represent at all what is happening in the market in terms of hiring and firing and layoffs and all of that. Right. So we are, and I should preface that this is not to say that of the 1,000 some odd people that got laid off from Flexport or C.H. Robinson, or pick any one of these that had a lot of layoffs, that within that group there aren't really good people, because there's so many really good people that shouldn't got laid off, but they did. We're getting paid to go after the best of the best in the industry. And whether the market is doing this or the market is doing this, those people are not looking for work typically. I would argue that in a difficult market, they're being held onto even more tightly than in a good market, which makes the service that we provide even more valuable because we have to convince them to go leave their perfectly good job to go work for our clients.
Sure.
In an unstable situation. But generally speaking, there's been a lot of hardship, man, and there's a lot of people that good people, like good workers, good performers that lost their job last year and they've been unemployed for like 2-3 months.
Mhm.
And my recommendation to them, this conversation I've had over and over again, is it's not too late to start networking. Could you apply for jobs? Sure, and you should continue to do that, and that's fine. But do what I do when I started the business, man. Make your A list, your B list, and your C list. Everybody
I like
when
that.
the day that you got laid off, take a breather, have a beer, hang out. The next day when you wake up, you got to make a list of who are the people that are going to open a door for me. Who are the people that are going to stick their neck out for me? Every single one of those people should get a phone call just as an update. Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I've been up to. This is what I'm doing for work. Unfortunately, I got laid off. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Your next job is much more likely to come from generating those conversations and planting those seeds than applying to a job and sending your resume into a black hole applicant tracking system and hoping that you get picked up by an algorithm. Could it work out and could you get a job that way? Sure. And you should do that. But in addition, you should absolutely be constantly networking and investing time in the relationships that you already have. Now, I would take 2 steps back and say, to avoid being unemployed for 2 to 3 months, when you're super satisfied, super happy, and the market's great, is when you should be networking like you don't have a job, right? Like people should people. I tell people all the time. I mean, before we had these conferences, we went to BJSA and Manifest and Stiefel and a few other things. Like I'm saying to candidates that I'm talking to that I don't have a job for right now, go. Like spend $3,000 and go to this event. You will leave with 4 job offers.
Yep.
Like just go. Like you're an awesome candidate. You just need exposure to people who are looking. Like there's someone out there that is dying to hire somebody like you, but you're just sending your resume out and hoping for the best. Like you need to invest in building relationships. And if you're constantly doing that, and mind you, this is advice that I'm giving that is like counterproductive for my business. Because if everybody did this, then they probably wouldn't need me, right? But if you're constantly doing that, then when you are in a time of need, like you already have those relationships. You're not like, oh, who do I know? Who do I know? Because like you've already been putting good out there. You've already been building relationships when things were good. And also, like one of the least attractive things is somebody that reaches out only when they need something,
Mm-hmm.
So like if hits the fan and then you start reaching out to people that you haven't talked to in a year, like no one's that excited to help that person.
Yeah.
So the best advice I can give is to leverage the warm relationships that you have when you're in a time of need, and when you're not in a time of need, invest in building those warm relationships.
Well, I think we're going to call this episode the long game, because what you're doing is more farming than hunting. You are genuinely investing in things that may pay off or may not pay off. But by and large, you've managed to not only build a company, but build a network of people that also want to see you win. And it's no surprise to me why. But I just want to offer that encouragement to you as well and say, we need more people to be active in the supply chain marketplace in whatever discipline. It could be software, it could be recruiting, it doesn't matter. We need to connect more people that have this mindset, because I believe it's how we can have an impact well beyond this fiscal quarter or this year. But there's new generations of people entering the workforce in a very difficult climate, and they're looking to us and saying, how are you going to lead? How are you going to model for us what the industry is supposed to be like? And right now, double brokering is, perhaps the single most talked about subject, based on fraud and lying and cheating and stealing. And yet there's also a bunch of people bringing light to the situation, and we need to celebrate that more. And that's why, in part, I'm so glad to get to share stories like yours, Wasim, because there are people doing good work. And if we highlight that, I don't know what the good always that comes out of it. I just trust that there will be, because like you said, what if everything works out?
That's right. Yeah. Um, I think it doesn't get highlighted for the same reason like you watch the evening news or you watch whatever news that you watch. Like good news isn't that sexy. You know what I
Not.
mean? Like people's eyes are more attracted to a dumpster fire for some reason
Yep.
than good news, which is why like if you watch CNN or Fox News or whatever you watch, it doesn't matter. Um, they're sitting there trying to scare you. You know, look at the news is always like, this is really bad. Be afraid of it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So and it's the same thing in what we do. Like it's not that sexy to talk about how great somebody's doing or the value that they're bringing to the table. But I think if people like you with your platform and people like Trey with his platform, people that have like big networks in the industry and are influential, put effort into highlighting those things, then more people will notice and more people will be encouraged to talk about it. Because I think if you have these kind of conversations the right way or the wrong way, the people talking about it may hesitate because they may think that it's received as them bragging about their approach.
Sure.
But it's not. It's just the way that you choose to approach your business and your life, and you want to encourage other people to do it. So we should encourage people to talk about that. You know.
Well,
I don't know if that makes
thank
sense.
you
Just kind
for
of thinking out loud. Yeah.
no, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for trusting me to share your story. We're all rooting for you, and we're going to do whatever we can to keep seeing that you win.
I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. That's super cool.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bootstrapper's Guide to Logistics, and a special thank you to our sponsors and the team behind the scenes who make it all possible. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the podcast to get the latest updates. To learn more about the show and connect with the growing community of entrepreneurs, visit logisticsfounders.com. And of course, thank you to all the founders who trust us to share their stories.